That's the idiot. Part of the clown crew. What's happening, everybody? I'm here at Champions Boxing and Fitness in Rockville, Maryland. I'm with an old friend of mine, Bruce Babashan, who works with several fighters in the area. Right. I'm here to talk to you about a couple fighters in particular tonight, and I want you to tell me a little bit about them, how you met them, and what's it going to look like in their near future.
Sure. Mm-hmm. We have two kids we want to talk about tonight. One's Luis Olivares. He's a 141-pounder.
All right.
He's ranked #2 in the U.S. right now.
Okay.
And we have another kid named Bill Marks, who's a former junior national super heavyweight champion. And both of these young men will be competing in the Olympic trials at the end of this month.
So they'll be going actually to see if they'll be actually on the Olympic team.
On the Olympic team. And the way that works is they have to go, and we have a trial system set up. And they go into a tournament. Bill has to fight the 50 of the top super heavyweights.
Right.
He has to win 5 fights in 5 days. Whoever's going to represent the U.S. 5 fights in 5 days has to win them all. Luis has a larger class. He's going to have to win 7 fights in 7 days. So it doesn't matter who wins.
Who they right. So as long as they end up going straight through those fights, they end up being the person that will represent.
Who's ever going to represent the U.S. has to win every day. The single elimination. Lose one, you go home. Right.
Now let's talk quickly. Let's touch about the fella Bill.
Sure.
This is an interesting story. You told me a little bit about it. I'm going to tell a little bit about, the audience about this guy, how you met him, and his potential. You know, what do you think?
Well, they brought Bill to me a number of months ago. When he came into the gym, he was at first glance, not the most athletic-looking fella in the world.
Right.
They told me a little bit about him, and they said that this kid was the former junior national super heavyweight champion, and that he wanted to compete for the trials and try and make the U.S. team.
Right.
At first, quite frankly, I really wasn't that impressed with the way he looked.
Right.
But they gave me video. I went home and I studied him a little bit. I talked to some people that knew him. And I really realized that this kid had the goods. He could really fight. Right.
Now, from that point where you decided, I'm going to take on this guy, and work with him, what has he shown you so far?
Well, he's shown me, if you know a little bit more about his backstory, which I learned as well, which is really the compelling element about Bill, was that Bill is, he is a cancer survivor.
Right, okay.
And after his treatment with cancer, he fell into a deep depression. And though he beat cancer, that was the remaining element, and he really fell into a deep depression, gained well over 100 pounds, and by the time he got to me, he had lost over 100 pounds.
Now, let me ask you something real quick. Yeah. So you're saying this? He's beaten cancer. How recent was this bout with cancer he had?
4 years ago.
Right. So it's
4 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
But the psychology of it, quite frankly, everybody responds differently. He really told me one day, we were talking, and he opened up to me. He said, "Coach, I want to tell you." He goes, I had the fear of death in me, and I was too young to be able to manage it. He said it really affected my life. I became, it's all I thought about all the time, and it overtook his life. It kept him out of the gym. It stole all of his ambition.
You never really think of that perspective of that.
Of course
You know
not.
what I'm saying? Just, thinking about every day of possibly dying.
I'm possibly going to die.
Right.
And, it took him a while to come around, but he fell into a deep depression, and it really affected his life. He ballooned up to over 400 pounds.
Right.
But then one day, he woke up and said, "I don't want this life anymore."
Was it anything in particular that sparked that? He said,
"Not really. I think that the right amount of time had passed. Where he had felt that, he felt his life slipping away. He's a very thoughtful, genuine, kind young man. I think he's very introspective, and he felt, my life is slipping away. I have this talent.
Right.
I should use it. Now, what am I going to do with it?" And it was interesting because. He had this dream about going to the trials.
Right.
But at first, I have to admit, I was one of them.
You were kind of leery of it, right?
I was leery of it. I was leery of it.
And now it's just done 180-degree turn.
Now it's a 180-degree turn, and I tell you this, and I have been out talking to folks about Bill. It costs money to produce these things. We have to fly Bill out, have him spend time out there. It's going to cost money. Luckily, we're able to find some folks.
Right. Now, I'm going to cut you off, and what I'm going to tell everybody is that, Bruce and I grew up together. And Bruce does this because he has just since you've been a kid, a passion for it, a crazy passion for it. You're not making any money doing this.
No.
You're looking at potential athletes and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to work with this person just because I want to see them succeed.
Absolutely. I mean, we have two levels. I have my professional athletes, right, and we do make money from them. But we have guys like Bill, and we have guys like Luis, where they are truly our passion in life. You'll meet Luis's lead coach, Coach Floyd Seymour later.
Okay.
But we do that for passion. The professional part of this thing, then we do it for money.
Right.
Right. But this is really for the love of the sport and for the good of the kid. And I'm telling you something, even though we don't get paid, we're very rich for doing it.
That's cool. That's great.
And we get a lot out of it, and you see a kid fulfill a dream.
Right.
You see a kid have a dream
and then
work towards a dream, fulfill a dream.
And it's kind of like you walk beside him.
Beside him. It's like a hero's journey.
Right.
And you get to be a mentor on that journey.
Right.
That's the stuff. You get to really, really add tremendous value to your own life. So we are paid, but just not in the monetary way.
Right. Now, with Luis, we'll talk a little bit about him, and then we'll actually bring his coach in, and you guys will be able to, see the interview with his coach. Now, tell me a little bit about Luis.
Well, Luis is a 141-pounder.
Right.
He's ranked number 2 in the U.S.
Okay.
The interesting thing about it, he's 19 years old, great-looking kid. Great family background. But the interesting thing about Luis, he's also a full-blown street magician. And what's interesting about that is that, when you think of magician, with all due, I think like sort of a kid who, like ventriloquist, kind of guy, maybe work on computers. Excuse me.
And this kid will work you in the ring and then put a magic.
But then when you put a pair of gloves on him, he will just bust you up. Right. And so here you have a kid who is, like, when you meet him at first, it's so disarming and so gentle.
Right.
When he does his magic, you can see that he loves his magic.
Right. So he's got a lot of passion for that as well.
And obviously, the nickname, Luis the Magic Man. It didn't take a whole lot of imagination to come up with that, right?
Exactly.
But he is unique in the way that he has a crossover appeal. So already, the professional promoters are interested in Luis.
Right.
If he wins the trials and he represents the U.S. and he has a great backstory too, and I'll let you let Coach Floyd talk more about it.
Right.
But if he wins the trials, they're already after him,
right,
because he's got all the things that you want.
Right.
Smart, good-looking, great kid, great family.
He's a complete marketing package.
Complete market package, easily to sell and easy to like.
Great.
Easy to like.
Now let's actually get his coach in, and his coach is what?
Right.
Tim Floyd.
What's that?
His coach is, what's his first name?
Coach Floyd.
Coach Floyd. Okay, we're going to actually take a break and have Coach Floyd come in and talk to me real quick. Okay, I am here with Coach Floyd, and we're talking about one of your pupils right now, Luis. So I just wanted you to actually give me a little bit of insight on yourself and about Luis as well. So how did you get started in this?
Man, I was boxing. You mean boxing or coaching?
Boxing and coaching, actually.
Not a problem. I started boxing at the age of 9. I came from the Bahama Islands.
Right.
Been boxing my whole life. Right up to 21, where I made the Bahamas Olympic team.
Okay.
After the Olympic team, Sugar Atlantic management team wanted me to move to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
To box with.
So this is a local talent again. Via the islands, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So I moved to Washington, D.C. when I was like 22 years old.
Okay.
Man, I trained and boxed with Sugar Ray for about 3 to 4 years with this organization. After I left, I got up with some other guys out of New York.
Okay.
I went to Catskills, New York. Catskills Gym in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Trained over there, and boxing's a lot of politics, man.
Right. It is a lot of politics.
Professional fighting was
right.
So 26 years old, I got out.
Right.
And it's at my hotel, because I was a manager, a food and beverage director at the hotel when I was like 29, 30. And my GM was like, Floyd, in life, you can be bitter or you can get better. Right. So my thing was, okay, I want to be better. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I know you love sports. I know you love boxing. Right. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm tired of being bitter. I want to get better. Right. So I got back into boxing, but at that time I was like 30, 31 years old. So I decided I want to start training, coaching. Right. So I spoke to my wife. Okay. And I opened up a gym in my backyard. Really? Yeah, my backyard.
And so that's how you got started.
Yes.
Wow.
And 2005, I met up with Gary Russell. Okay. Right now, Gary Russell is ranked. He's kind of ranked in the world right now. He made the U.S. Olympic team. Okay. So he started training. I started training with Gary Russell. Me and his dad was his trainers, and we made the U.S. Olympic team for 2008 Olympics. Right. Okay. So after the Olympics, coming up, my Luis Olivares. Okay. I've been knowing Luis since he's 13 years old. Okay.
Now tell me a little bit about this guy.
Oh man, this is it's. You know what? Maybe you could help me explain what happened.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to figure out what happened. Okay. I've been knowing Luis since he's 13 years old.
Okay.
Roy Jones Jr.'s trainer, Mario Francis, is from the Bahamas, and he would call me up from 2005, 2006. Hey, Floyd, I got this little kid on the phone. He's 13. He's going to be a world champion. I'm like, he's 13. Call me back when he's 15 years old.
So he gets a little bit more.
So a year or two would pass.
Right.
He called me up, Floyd, I know you're good with his amateur game.
Right.
I'm with a professional. He's 15 and a half.
Right.
I said, listen, man, tell the kid. I said, put him on the phone.
Right.
Hey, Luis, how was school today? Good. How was lunch? Good. Okay, keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Train hard. Call me back when you're 16, 17, something.
Right.
The years passed, and now, you know, I was coming back from India. I made the Bahamas Olympic team. They made me an Olympic coach.
Okay,
so I'm coming back from India in 2010, and Luis and his father called me. Hey, Floyd, Luis is 18, getting ready to hit 19, and he wants to make the Olympics for America. I'm like, are you serious? Wait a minute, he's 18 now?
Right.
I said, first of all, he's 13, 14, 15, now he's 18.
Right.
Wow, that's deep.
Right.
I said, sure. He said, Floyd, we want you to train him for the, nationals.
Right.
So I said, okay, send him over. So Luis flew over and trained with me for a month. And we had 25 of the best in the U.S.
Right.
We went to the nationals, and we placed second. We got a silver medal. So he got a silver medal, second best in America.
Wow. Now, how many fights does Luis have under his belt as of now?
Oh, man, Luis has over 100 plus.
He's
been fighting since
unbelievable.
13, 12 years old.
And how old is he now? Right now, he's
19.
19 years old with over 100 plus fights. That's impressive.
Over 100 fights.
Wow.
That was impressive. Then we had to go to the U.S. Olympic trials.
Right.
And the same guy that kind of like who we lost to at the nationals, he seemed like he was picked the whole time till he made the Olympic team.
Right.
But because the U.S. hasn't fully developed a team, they needed somebody under at 41.
Okay.
So, Luis called me up and his dad said, yo, we're going to make 41. Let's do this again. So, he came back over here and started. But when he came with all these little magic tricks. And I'm like, Luis, you're doing magic.
Bruce told me, like, the guy's a magician.
I'm like, dude,
like
you
a
do
good
magic?
magician.
I said, you know what? What's going to happen is this. When you get in the press conference, tell the guy you're going to turn him into a frog or a rat or a bird.
Right.
Just make it happen.
Right, make it happen.
That's all. That's all. Because he's great. I mean, honestly, he's a good magician.
Just down there.
Everything he do, he has another trick after trick after trick.
Right.
And right now, Luis Magic Man Olivares, when Magic Olivares gets in the ring, I mean, we're going to make the Olympic team.
Right.
We already got offers from a lot of, Gary Shaw. We got some offers from Golden Boy.
Okay.
To turn pro. But his
now
whole
that's all
thing
I got to do is produce.
His whole thing is making the Olympic team.
Making the Olympic
he's
team.
Mexican American.
Right.
He lives in Arizona.
Okay.
Great family. His dad, his mom, his sister. Great people, and he's a nice kid.
Now let me ask you something. Luis is originally from Phoenix, right?
Correct.
But now he's come here to actually train with you, right?
Exactly. So he's going to be fighting for the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. This is going to be his home base.
Okay, so he's going to be home base.
So now his dad wants him to be camp here. This is his camp. He'll be fighting with us for us.
Right, and he's going to be training. All right, well, let's bring him in real quick, and we're going to introduce you guys to Luis. And everybody, I'm sitting here with Luis, the man that you have heard about, the Magic Man, Luis. And the first thing I'm thinking of when I see, you're going to have to put this up here, right? Really close so you can hear you, is your face. You're a good-looking guy, man.
Thank you.
I don't see any, not your nose is not over here, at least not yet. You don't have any really bad cuts to your face, so you're obviously doing your job in the ring.
Yeah, I'm doing something right.
So tell me a little bit about your history and how you got into boxing and actually how you got to be a magician, because I'm hearing about both of these things. Right. But first, let's start with boxing, because that's what everybody's here to tune in about.
All right. Well, I began boxing when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
My dad put me in a karate school because he didn't want me being, a little couch potato. He just wanted me having some extracurricular activities.
Okay.
So he put me in karate school, and every Monday, this boxing instructor would come in and teach us a little bit of boxing. The basics, the jabs, the how to slip and block. And I started developing interest in boxing. Instead of karate, I told my dad I don't want to do boxing anymore. I don't want to do karate anymore. I want to do boxing.
So you just kind of eased on over to boxing. You started to develop a passion for boxing.
Right.
Okay.
And my dad was surprised. I mean, because I was 8 years old, and he's like, "Do you even know what that is?"
Right.
Like, he was shocked. And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do boxing. I want to try it out." And so he took me to this this gym downtown.
Okay.
And it was probably like 30 minutes from where we live, and it was it was out of our area.
Right.
And he took me down there and he said, you know what? No, we're gonna wait to see what comes up on our side of the town.
Right.
And I started crying.
Right.
Like, yeah, I stared crying because
So
I wanted to do boxing. Like,
you had that much passion for it at such a young age.
Yeah, I started crying.
When do you think had you convinced your dad at that age? How long did it take before you convinced your father, hey, this is really what I want to do?
It took a couple weeks actually, because at first he was like, okay, you'll forget about it in a couple of days. But no, I kept nagging. I kept telling him I want to do it.
Right.
I kept insisting to take me to a boxing gym and sign me up. And I want to say probably like a couple weeks after that,
right?
The same boxing instructor that would come in, my dad talked to him, and he's like, my son is showing interest in boxing. We're wondering if you're willing to train him,
right?
And he said, yeah, we have like this little gym down here on this side of town,
right.
And my dad's like, okay, perfect,
right?
So he signed me up, and then from then on, it's
been history. Now let me ask you, when was the first time where you actually thought to yourself, I'm pretty good at this?
Right. I just, I never really like to tell myself that I'm good.
Right.
Like
you
I
never
like
cocky
to.
on yourself. You're like, I want to show myself.
Yeah,
in the ring.
I'm humble. I won't brag about myself. I won't say anything. I let the people say how I am. Like if I'm good, then okay, that's what the people say.
Okay, let me change the question. When's the first time somebody said something to you and said you have a lot of potential?
Oh, it was right away.
Right.
When I first started training, the first couple of weeks, my coach was like, he's picking it up really fast. He's learning. Like he has potential. We see he has potential.
Right.
So we want to see how he does fighting as an amateur.
Right.
And so I got my license and I began fighting. I want to say around 9-10 years old. That's when I started fighting.
So now how's everything? I mean, obviously I've heard about a bunch of your accomplishments. You have over 100 fights. That's crazy. To be 19 years old. Now, how are things going? How do you feel, about your chances? Are you psyched up? I mean, how do you feel like your training's going? You're here now in the D.C. area, working with Floyd and Bruce. How's everything coming with that?
Everything's coming along great. I thank God for it. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for it.
Right.
And it's just, all these opportunities that I'm given. I'm really happy.
Right.
There's words can't explain how I feel.
Right.
It's just something I want to do and I love doing. It's my passion.
Yeah.
And I want to take it as far as I can possibly go with it.
Awesome. Now, look, before we let you go,
okay.
I got to see you do a magic trick on my boy George. George has been our cameraman today, so he's been off camera. But you're going to have to make a fool of George, all right?
Okay.
Okay.
This is a bicycle deck of cards, okay? I mean, you've seen this brand before, right? All right, so basically what I'm going to do is go ahead and just tell me when to stop. Now's good. Right there? Yeah. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, are you left-handed or right-handed? Right. Go ahead and hold out your right hand like this. I'm going to show you the first card, okay, which is the 9 of hearts. All right, what I'm going to do is place it right here, and I want you to put your hand on top of it, kind of, like a sandwich, just like that.
9 of hearts. Okay,
now the second card I'm going to use is the Jack of Spades, okay? Now the idea is this: if I take the Jack and I just wave, you see I can take the 9 out of your hands. Look in your hand. That's cute. Here, let's try another thing here.
Oh my God. George, you spooked out, man? What happened, George?
Here, but what I want you to do is same thing. Go ahead and tell me when to stop. Now. Right there. All right, go ahead and peek. You got it. You got to peek. You got to peek. You guys got to peek.
Yeah, okay, hold on 1 second. Let's see. Let's everybody focus in. That's the card right there, okay?
All right, you guys got it?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. You can take the deck. You can give it a shuffle if you like. All right. I'll look away. I don't want you thinking I'm doing anything crazy or anything, all right? Cool? Fair? All right. What I want you to do is don't think of the card, all right? But here's the funny thing. As soon as I said don't think about it, you kind of thought about it just for a split second. So I'm going to go off your body language. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to watch. I kind of have an idea of what your card might be. I took one card and I placed it on top, okay? Now, if I'm wrong, forgive me if I'm wrong, okay? Because I have been wrong before. But if I'm wrong, don't tell me what the card is, okay? So here's my first shot. 3 of spades. No. So was your card a black card or was it a red card? Red. Red card. Okay. So it was the 3 of spades, and you said it was red. Tell me when to stop. Now. Right there. I'm gonna mark where you told me where to stop. Here, hold that. Just hold it just like this. You stopped me on. Okay, that wasn't it. The 9 of diamonds. Was it the 9 of diamonds? The 2 of hearts. 5 of diamonds? So here, hold on. What was the card you chose?
Now I have to tell you?
Yeah.
It's a 2 of diamonds.
2 of diamonds.
Oh, 2 diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay,
2 of diamonds. Now it's in George's hand. It's in George's hand, man. Look.
Have a good day.
Look, George, where you going, man? That is wild, man. That's unbelievable. So how long have you been doing this?
I want to say since freshman year, so probably about 5 years, 4 years.
That was so wild. That the hand. What card did he have in his hand before you made it change to a 2 of diamonds?
Yeah,
Oh my God, man. Oh, that is crazy, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
We're back now, Bruce. I got a couple questions. We've met one of the athletes. How does all this happen? Like, what's the production of it all? Like, who funds it? You know, and besides, you know, the fact of just who's funding it, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing now in this business.
Well, we started this gym with the idea of attracting athletes from around the world. I just got back 10 days ago. I coached a U.S. Select Collegiate team against the British national champions.
Okay.
We went over there. We had a great event, great international event, talking to their athletes. But a lot of these kids, what happens in this sport is that they may go to the Olympics. They may be the best kid in their sport. They may be from Tonga. They may be from somewhere in South Africa. They may be somewhere in Europe. But after that, they don't. A lot of them, after they have their Olympic careers,
Right.
a lot of them don't have a way of turning pro, and they certainly don't have top-notch trainers and coaches
Right.
to make them professional. So they want to come to the U.S., but where do they go?
Right.
Right? Where do they come to?
Right.
So we started the gym, and one of the things that we've been doing here, Coach Floyd and I have been attracting international talent to come to the gym.
Right.
We've had people come to us from Norway. We had people come from us from Tonga. We had people come from us from Europe.
Right.
Right? And so we are building an international sort of interest in our gym. If we're any prospect, any kid who's a real prospect, and quite frankly, there's a difference between being a prospect and a real prospect.
Now, explain that real quick.
Sure,
Tell me the
sure.
difference between.
Boxing and MMA and sports like this, you can talk to any kid and they have a dream.
Right.
But the difference between a dreamer and a kid who really is a potential prospect is talent. Okay. It's like anything else. You can take somebody who plays the violin, they can practice every single day, and they can become very good. But when you run across a violinist that has talent, born to play the instrument, it sounds different.
Right.
That's the kind of kid that we attract here. The kid that actually has the talent for the sport, who has the dream of becoming a professional, who has the fire in the belly, who is going to sacrifice. They call this the hurt business. Right. It is a very, very, very difficult road to the top.
Right.
You must be willing to sacrifice without any guarantee of an outcome.
Right.
That's a very terribly difficult
And
proposition.
have you found, like, through the years of working with people, obviously you have a great eye for it, but was there times where you just like, wow, it didn't turn out the way you thought?
It happens all the time. I mean, oftentimes, the real magic is when you have a kid like Luis or a kid like Bill, where they have talent, but they have the desire to match. Right. Oftentimes you have a mismatch. You have an incredible amount of desire and not the talent, or you have an incredible amount of talent and not the desire.
The passion, yeah.
And what you run across is, and this is a sport where, as a coach, you have to be willing to go to the athlete and say, listen, this isn't like, if something happens in football or many other sports, their health isn't at risk. Right. But a kid who's got the fire but doesn't have the talent, you have to go to them. I've had this uncomfortable situation many times where I've had to retire people. So listen, you need to stop fighting. He may have a winning record, but he may not be special in the sport.
And do you do this because you feel probably a combination, because you feel, one, they could be hurt, or two, it's,
but I love my
kids. Right.
So when you coach him, you as a coach, you have to emotionally invest. You have to pour yourself into these kids. You pour yourself into them, and because of that, you become emotionally invested in them. It's not. When somebody brings you a finished product and they say, Bruce, will you point this person up for an upcoming fight? It's different, right? My heart is there, but my heart doesn't break. My heart. But when you develop a kid and you start them and you see how they grow as a fighter and as a young man or woman, and then they fight and then you have to retire them. It's their dream. It's very, very difficult because you know you're ending a dream of somebody you happen to
Right.
care about.
And that's
and
hard,
love a
right.
lot of times. It's very difficult. You love these kids like they're your own.
Right.
Right. But you want to save your own.
Right.
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 And so if they're not special, then you have to put them in a certain place where they're going to be able to have a good life.
Right.
And not sacrifice their health
Right.
for something that they can never achieve.
Right.
And believe me when I tell you, it's the movies.
Right.
When they say one lucky punch makes you the world champion, that's the movies.
Right. Yeah.
Okay?
It's hard work. It's a lot
hard
more.
work
Yeah.
and sacrifice. And when's the last time you saw one lucky punch make a guy a champion?
Right. It's funny because I think a lot of our audience out there probably don't realize what is vested in this.
Oh.
As an athlete, as a coach, I think a lot of people out there watching like, oh, I want to train, I want to roll on the mat, I want to get in the boxing ring, I want to be an MMA fighter. But like you say, it's easy to say it.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons we did this whole special, so we could talk to people and have them
love
identify.
Our MMA kids.
Right.
We have our MMA kids. We have our boxing kids. Our contribution to the MMA group is that we teach them as best we can about stand-up and about our mentality. They take that and they apply that. We have great relationships with our MMA coaches here. But when you talk about what it takes, I mean, just think about what Bill has been going through in preparation for this.
Right.
Bill is up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. He runs for a solid hour. He comes home. He eats. He takes his kids to school.
Right.
His wife goes to work. He comes back in the gym. Then we do conditioning for 2 hours.
Right.
Right. Then he goes home. He picks his kids up from school. He then meets his wife after work. He comes back, and then we train him for 2 to 3 hours in the
it's
gym.
the full,
5 to 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
Right. He has to spar 3 and 4 nights a week. I mean, by
Right.
the end of the week,
He's
you're
fried.
talking about needing a weekend.
Right.
Right. And that every day, and without any guarantees.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there's no
And
guarantee.
listen, the other thing is that as coaches, we're hard. Right. We're difficult. We are demanding.
Right.
Not because maybe that's the way we are as people.
Right.
But our responsibility is to make a champion out of this kid.
Well, yeah, and I guess it's you really got to get in the whole psyche of it when you're training
100%.
somebody. I mean, it's you've got to be their mentor, but at the same time, you've got to put provide that mental toughness for them. You got to show them and say, hey, you know what, this road, there's no joke.
There's
It's
no joke.
because there's a man like you and I have talked about it several times, sitting across from the ring that when you're exhausted, right?
100%.
They're going to try to knock you
I
out.
tell people this all the time. It's easy to go to a bar, get drunk. Guy pushes you, push him. You get in a spontaneous fight.
Right.
That's one thing.
Right.
Walk up to that guy and say, "Listen, I'll see you in 10 weeks. Right. I'm
Right.
going to meet you over there. He's going to go get the best trainer he can. You're going to go train. In 10 weeks, you're going to meet at a certain time. I want to know who you're going to think about for the next 10 weeks. When
Right.
This kid's training to crush you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's real fighting.
Right.
That's real bravery.
Right.
When you get the time to think about it. And these kids are sacrificing, basically this part of their life. Luis doesn't even go to college because this is his dream.
Right.
And unfortunately, this sport demands that you pour yourself into
Right,
it.
it's got to be your number one focus. Right.
Be
half-assed it.
half-assed.
Yep. You can't. In case you guys didn't catch it, we're in Rockville, Maryland. Okay, now for the people that your geography's off or whatever, Rockville is a suburb of Washington D.C. We're at Champion Boxing and Fitness, which is located in Rockville, Maryland, probably about 10 minutes outside of the
10
city.
minutes outside.
Literally out of the city. Now, tell us a little bit about your sponsors. Keep going.
The American Building Trades Union.
Okay.
And President Mark Ayers, I sent them a nice letter about the story, and they within hours they immediately stepped up and they said, listen, we love what you're doing. We love the idea of sponsoring these kids, not just because they're potential Olympians, but because
Right.
they love the backstory of the kids,
Right.
that the kids have earned the opportunity,
Right.
and that they're getting opportunities. So they stepped up within an hour. They
Right.
sent me back an email, said, listen, we'll pay for the whole thing. Don't worry, it's on us.
Right.
Just get the kids ready.
Right.
And so, that's how we get these kids to these events.
Right.
You know.
That's great. And what was that? One more time. What was the sponsor?
The American Builders Trade
American
Union.
Builders Trade Union. Okay, so
Right.
they're the ones
and
that pretty
President
much.
Mark Ayers, and we can't thank
Just a
them
great
enough
guy.
because, we really have to go and ask people to help us out, and they really helped
And they
us
stepped
out.
up to the plate,
They
yeah.
stepped up to the plate in an hour.
Right.
And which makes it easier for us because now we can put that worry aside,
Right.
and take that energy and focus on getting Bill ready for the
Great.
trial.
Now, speaking of Bill, we're gonna get ready to bring him in here, and I'm gonna talk to him a little bit about that. So now I'm sitting here with Bill. We have I've been sitting here talking to Bruce and getting a little bit of rundown of your story.
Right.
I kind of want to hear. I mean, Bruce told me about you are obviously a champion already because you beat cancer, and that bout you had with cancer was what, 4 years ago?
6 years ago.
6 years ago,
Yeah.
and then tell me a little bit about what you did prior to that, what got you back into boxing, and how everything's going, to date.
Right. Well, I guess the short version of the story would be, I've always been around boxing my whole life. My dad was a fighter, and my whole life I've been, messing around in the gym and stuff. And
Right.
From the time I was 14 or so, I was really working, somewhat hard at it. And 15, I competed in the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves, and then 16, I won it in that age group and
Right.
in super heavyweight division. And I also went on to do the National Golden Gloves in that junior division, and I won that. And I had also did Junior Olympic, but there's I lost to this really ridiculous decision in that. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I'd have won all that too. It's just, it is what it is. And
Right.
I moved on from that with that. But I played football in high school too. I played, I was well recruited and stuff like that, and I did it in prep school.
Right.
Up in New York, Milford
Now,
Academy.
from what Bruce told me that you were thinking about going to Penn State, or what was that? You were a hopeful trying to go. You were thinking about, or?
Well, yeah. The thing that happened was I actually had my son in high school, and I ended up having to go to Milford Academy, which is like the #1 football prep school. LaShawn McCoy was my roommate and my running back at Milford. He's the All-Pro for the Eagles now.
Right.
And
that our cameraman George, he's a huge Eagles fan, so he's probably got, excuse my language, a hard on right now. He's a big Eagles fan, but anyway, so he was your roommate, right?
Yeah, and going into the season, right during our first camp over the summer, I came back and I had a mole on my shoulder taken off, and because it looked ugly and it didn't bother me physically, but it just looked unhealthy to me or something, and it turned out it was an in situ melanoma, which is so
that kind of was
it
a
took
time
the wind out of my sails a little bit. I still had some options coming out of Milford to keep playing football, scholarships and whatnot, but mentally I wasn't there. I was going to walk on at Penn State, and I went to school at Penn State. That would have been an option too, but it just mentally wasn't there because I let my weight and my conditioning and everything completely fall off, and I just wasn't all together mentally in any way. And
now, when you're talking about, what is the heaviest you got to when you were just kind of like?
I don't even know what I weighed, honestly. I didn't even start weighing myself till I felt like I had lost a substantial amount of weight.
Just because I were going the way back down.
I didn't want to know what it was because it was just so out of control.
Right.
And my emotions and everything were so out of control. I had anxiety and depression and everything, and it just got way out of control. And it was at the breaking point where I had to go to the emergency room, because I had anxiety.
You kept having anxiety attacks. Yeah.
And I just decided, that I was going to live now and not, let this kill me, because it would kill me. I survived the scary part, but the mental parts were killing me.
So now let's fast forward to now. Right now, you're here in Rockville training with Bruce.
Yeah.
And at Champions Boxing and Fitness, and you're getting ready to do these trials, right? We're working towards that, I guess, at the end of the month. How do you feel about everything? Where you've gone from in the last 4 years to this point right now?
Truthfully, I was still at the point where I was heavy, and I always loved boxing, and I never meant to get out of boxing.
Right.
And it was only a couple things with my football career, and my parents had gotten divorced, and my dad had trained me, and these things weren't right for me personally at the time to continue boxing.
Right.
And I just kept it up in my mind that I wanted to come back to this, even when things were at their worst. I knew I wanted to do this again. And about, I'd say, maybe 2 years ago, I started walking, and losing a little bit of weight. And then maybe last year, last January, I was still about, 385 pounds or something. I remember I weighed myself. And
that's crazy. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at you, thinking that when you had lost, you were 385, and now you're just, and you're going to be cutting down to
another 10, 15 pounds.
Right.
So, but I was at that weight, and I decided then, I was gonna get down now. You know, even for me, like, oh well, now I'm only 100 pounds away from potentially competing. At that
Right.
point, I'm like, okay, well, I'll start running more and eat less. And you know, in the past year, just with you know, watching what I ate, and I started off walking, and then I picked it up running. You know, I tried to run a little further every night and everything, and now, you know, I know I lost over 100 pounds with
That's
that
unbelievable,
just
right.
in a year. So
Yeah.
and then in the last 2 months training intensely, more like 30 pounds in the last
Right.
couple months. So
It's you're on the way.
Yeah.
Well, we're obviously gonna be following you. You know, now we mentioned we're gonna be keeping up with everything, you know, through the trials and stuff, and kind of coming back and checking in on you guys. We're actually gonna go because we're actually gonna get some footage
Right.
of you actually sparring. Just don't slip up and catch me, because I'm just don't want to be laid out.
Work in there, work. Come on, Bill, you gotta get your guard. Work in there. Don't let him tie you up. Very nice, Bill. Watch your head. Work, Bill. Work in there. Work in there, Bill. Work in there. Work in there. Work, Bill. There you go. Work, Bill. Balance. Good both ways. Relax. Work out, Bill. Hold that on. Hold that on.